This is the Powkiddy V90. It's a little emulation handheld device in the style of a Game Boy Advance. It's got the clamshell, as you would expect with that console. I just got it off AliExpress, and I want to go into a bit of detail to see, is this worth the 20 odd quid / $30 that I paid for it? The first thing I want to do is explain what this device is called, where you can buy it from, and a little bit more about the comical way of buying these devices online. I got mine from AliExpress. Here's the price I paid, including tax, and you can get it on Powkiddy's actual website. The thing that makes me giggle is how they describe these consoles. Powkiddy describe it as 3-inch IPS screen flip handheld console, dual open system, game console, 16 simulators, retro PS1 kids give 3D new game. And AliExpress use a similar description and call it Powkiddy V90 3-inch IPS screen flip handheld console open system game console 16 simulators PS1 children's gifts. They're really banging on about the 16 consoles. But what's the actual build quality like? Can you play games on it comfortably? Does it bring back that nostalgia that we so clamour for? Well, let's have a look at the device. The first thing I noticed when I got this is just how light this thing is. It really does feel light in the hand. But when you open it, comes the second point of concern really for me, apart from the lightweight, is it's a clamshell, but have a listen to this. I'm going to put it near the mic here so you can hear it. Very concerning on a brand new device. And that's not just a case of, oh well Stu, you can put it here, you can put it here. You can do that anyway. But this, for some reason, when it reaches the climax, it does 2 clicks, and I've no idea why. Now the thing is, when you order this, you can get the 16GB microSD card, or you can buy the 64GB microSD card, whichever one you pick relates to the amount of emulators you get on the device. The pre-installed, you don't get to pick them, as are the emulators. There's 16, you'll remember that from both descriptions of this device. Essentially, with the 16GB microSD card, you'll get 3,000 plus games, so it claims, I've not counted them. And with the 64GB, you'll get 15,000 plus games. Now, a good rule of thumb for these devices is to replace the microSD card with a more reputable brand. So you're talking SanDisk, you're talking Samsung, because the ones they give you, you've likely never heard of, they are terrible and they will corrupt, whether sooner or later. Now, all microSD cards can corrupt, of course. It's good to have a few lying around, but these ones in particular are very susceptible to it. To take it out, you just push it in as you normally would, and you pull out L microSD card. So that is a CP 16GB in a lovely green and white design. That is the card that comes with the device. Now, you have to put it in the right way, and I've learned this through experience. It's a good rule of thumb, right? I put this in upside down. What that meant was I ended up pushing the microSD card through the slot somehow, and it went inside the device and started jiggling around like a pea in a tin can. So within 10 minutes of owning this thing, I had to have it open with my small screwdriver set just to get the actual microSD card out, and luckily it did work. The shoulder buttons fell off, as you would expect, but I put them back on in the right place, and it's all fine again. So just be careful when you're putting the microSD card in. You have to do it so that the artwork you like, the bit that isn't the actual gold part, I don't know what it's called, shove it so that that goes in facing up, and click it into place like that. As far as the battery is concerned, the website says it's 1,000 milliamp, but if you look at the device, someone else said that this is basically an old Nokia phone battery, and it says there 1,020. So it's not going to last you that long, really, on a full charge. The website reckons 4 hours from a 2.5 hour charge time. Based on my experience, that's a load of nonsense, and I'll tell you why. The reason I say that is because when you turn this device... God, I hate that sound. When you turn this device on, I will show you what it looks like. It's very basic. You see loads of lines of script when you turn it on. So let me show you. I'll turn it on, lines of script, and then NX Hope. This is the operating system that comes with it. And this is what it looks like. Now, it's pretty garish. It's not attractive in any sense of the word. Here are your emulators. You have Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Advance, Famicom, which is NES, that's what they call it in Japan. And then you've got Super Famicom, or SNES, or SNES as we call it in Britain, Game Gear, Master System, Mega Drive. Then you've got PlayStation, Neo Geo, I forget what the P stands for. And then you've got WS, PC, a load of these, I'll admit, I don't know what they are. arcade, Neo Geo there. Is that Portal? Neo Geo Portal? I don't know. But yeah, if you click on here, let's go on Game Boy, you get a handful of ROMs. A good rule of thumb as well is if you are going to replace this with a better value or a better, more reputable microSD card, and you're just going to copy and paste everything over, you still probably want to replace the ROMs because a lot of them will be terrible. I played Crash Bandicoot on the GBA and it crashed on the second level. Literally, the screen went blank. I had to restart the whole thing, as in restart the actual device. And it possibly would have nearly corrupted my microSD card, if not the device, but luckily it is still working. So replace the microSD card and use your own ROMs. You can upgrade the custom firmware. I think Mayu might be one, ArcOS possibly. I'm not sure. I've not tried it yet. I might do that in a future video. I am going to upgrade the firmware because I hate the look of this and I want to put all my own ROMs on there. Another thing to note as well is that I only plan to use this to relive the glory days of the GBA SP. So whether or not the other emulators like PlayStation or Master System or SNES look good, or if they have borders, or if it's not a good resolution, I'm not really interested in that. You might be. If you want to use this device to play other emulators, maybe get a better one. Don't just pay 20 or 30 quid for this. There's far better devices out there that can play more emulators than this in a better quality, better native resolution. It'll look better, screens better, feel better. This is a GBA SP clone. It feels like a GBA SP, therefore I'm just going to play GBA SP on it. I've got other devices for the other consoles. As far as the volume on this thing, it's a little wheel here rather than buttons. It sounds okay. I mean, it doesn't sound life-changingly good. If we click into Crash Bandicoot here, it's tinny. 100% tinny. But what would you expect from such a cheap device? But the good thing is, it looks pretty decent. If you click on your middle button, you can load a save state. I thought I had one in save slot 1. Obviously I don't, because the game crashed. So the middle button is sort of your quick start menu for your save states, for changing your graphics settings and exiting the actual emulator. So if we go to select, we can go back to this and play some Crash Bandicoot. This was one of the games I really rinsed on the Game Boy Advance. One thing that bugs me personally is the fact that this has 4 buttons, because you can play other emulators on there that perhaps have 4 buttons, such as the SNES. But for me, I'm only going to play this for Game Boy Advance, and that only had 2 buttons, so the A and B is all I'm going to use, and the D-pad. It feels much like you would expect for a Game Boy Advance. I'm going to do a later video to compare it with that as well, just to see if it feels different, if the buttons are, louder, or if it's heavier, if the screen's different. I'll do all that good stuff. And I've just got eaten by one of those plants because I wasn't paying attention. For stuff like this, I don't think you can go wrong for 20 quid. I didn't own many games for the Game Boy Advance SP, but I did love the console. And this screen is pretty much better than that because it's not front lit like that one. This is backlit, it looks better. I've been eaten again. I don't believe it. What you want to note as well is while you're playing this, if you close the clamshell, you'll note that the game is still going on. It doesn't automatically suspend your gameplay like the RG35XX SP, God I can't say that, which I will review in a later video because I've got one of those as well. If you want to suspend it when you're on the original menu, i.e. not in a game, you can press the middle button. If you're in a game, best thing to do is just save state it and come out, exit the thingy, and then, so when you're on your main menu, press the button and it says suspend, then you can close it, and then that's awful. Press it again, and there you go. It is a comfy device. It's small as you'd expect, but you can get your fingers around it comfortably. It's got an L2, R2, L1, R1, so it's got 4 buttons on there. Again, the GBA SP only had the 2 shoulder buttons, so that feels a bit unfamiliar. However, you'll only be pressing the outside ones if you're playing the Game Boy Advance games. If you want to reach the R2 and L2, they are the same height, which might be a concern because you might struggle if you've got big fingers to differentiate between R1 and R2, unless you're just more talented than me, which I'm sure you are. So ergonomic wise, it'll fit in your pocket quite comfortably. You can mess about with it. The yellow isn't as yellow as the portrait in the pictures, so I was a little bit frustrated with the watered down yellow that this is, but you just gotta take the wins and losses as they come when you're paying that price. If you want to get into it, it's just got these 4 bog standard screws, the crosshead screws, and then the shoulder buttons are attached, so you just get rid of them. It's quite simple. If I can do it, trust me, you can do it. You won't need to, unless you get your microSD card lost inside. Now, one thing I really don't like about this device is how you turn it off. What it says in the box, this is a lovely box, by the way, that comes with it, 64-bit game. There's 0 branding on there from Powkiddy. But it says something along the lines of, when you turn the console off, do not simply pull down the power button, because that could corrupt the SD card and render it useless. It's sort of putting the feelers out there that it's a crap one anyway. What you have to do is, using the shoulder buttons, is go across to the final tab, which is a house. That's where your settings are. Go down to power, press A, and it gives you a few options, and then you press A again, and it turns it off. The problem with that is, if you're forgetful like I am, you'll forget to turn the actual on-off switch to off. And if you don't, your battery will drain. Trust me, I'm speaking from experience. Now, until Crash Bandicoot crashed, what better use of a name for a game than Crash when it does just that, I was really enjoying this. I was sitting down, playing it. You could put it in your pocket if you go to an appointment, you're on the train, you're traveling, even just walking around the house, whack it in your pocket. It's no bigger really than a phone. It's maybe a little bit thicker. It doesn't feel that way. Or a really thick wallet if you're quite well off. You can whip it out, open it up, forget about the noises it makes when it cracks on the screen, play a little game from your past, and have a good time. For the price, is it worth maybe paying an extra tenner for a RG35XX-SP? Possibly. But let's find out in a future video where not only I review that console, but I compare it with the Powkiddy V90. What do you reckon? Worth it? Have you got this device? Have you got any Powkiddy device? There's a few different ones out there. What's your thoughts on them? If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a like, a share. I'd love to hear from you in a comment. I'm Stu, the Yorkshire Retro Gamer. Until next time, cheerio.